You're watching Biz Lounge and Manu Anand is with us today. But before we continue chatting, here's a look at the recipe behind the perfect tasting potato chip.
Dar ko maro, dew.
As you sip on your Mountain Dew or snack on a pack of kurkure, perhaps you wouldn't know that growing tomatoes and potatoes started out as a major business for PepsiCo when it first set up shop in the country.
Our license to entry was an export obligation of agri-based products. And in fact, tomato was a big part of our business in the earlier years. I think the big thing we learned at that time, which has stayed with us, has been working with farmers. So agri has been our backbone as a result of our early learnings.
It's those potatoes that go into every bag of Lay's potato chips that folks snack on. And whether it's masala or tangy tomato flavored, the taste of every last chip is special for Manu. He spent 9 years heading the foods business, making it part of his job to ensure just the perfect taste. And reaching that perfection is as much an art as it is a science.
The potato chip is only as good as the potato you make it with. I mean, you can have the best processing equipment, but you don't get the potato right, you're not going to get the right potato chip. And it's all about growing the right varieties, harvesting at a particular point of time, and then the way you store it.
Today, Manu has moved on to leading the company in the country, but there are some values that still stay close to him.
He would be able to sort of connect with even frontline salesmen on a first name basis. He would remember names, he would remember the last time he'd worked with them in the market and recollect that. And that's something which, people at that level would appreciate a lot coming from the CEO of the business.
It's quite an inspiration to watch him at work. Very decisive, very quick, and very results oriented, obviously. So that gets the whole team going.
So you took over as CEO of India operations about 1.5 years ago. Tell us what you've done differently with the organization since.
It's been about 18 months since I've been back, and of course, I've been taking forward a lot of great work done by my predecessor and his team. But if there's one thing I've been focused on to try and do differently, it's really leveraging the power of one advantage that we have as a company. We operate as a separate beverage business and a separate food business. And as a result, sometimes miss out on certain opportunities or synergies because we're operating separately. Mm-hmm. And what I've been focused on is to look for the opportunities and drive the synergies between those two businesses so we can deliver better against our consumers, our customer, and for our employees as well. Mm-hmm. And examples of that is our beverage and food are so often consumed together. Typically, the favorite accompaniment for a bag of potato chips is Pepsi. And Lay's and Pepsi get consumed so frequently together. Look for opportunities like that. Tropicana and Quaker. Just find the right consumption opportunities.
You've been with the company for about 18 years now. How have you changed your leadership style over the years and across various roles that you've had?
Well, I first took over the foods business some 14-odd years ago, and that time we were a very small business, very tight budgets, very entrepreneurial, and so one used to run it in a very hands-on manner. We were always, let's say, undermanned, so you had to double hat, play multiple roles, and look into each and every element in detail yourself, or make sure that somebody else was doing it. But as the scale of the business has grown, as the business has evolved, the style has become a little less hands-on and more strategic and more coaching.
PepsiCo is led by Indira Nooyi globally, one of the most powerful women in business. Tell us about some key takeaways you've gotten from her style of leading the organization.
Well, I could go on for hours about that, but maybe I think I'll just focus on a couple. I mean, and every interaction with Indira is a learning interaction. You spend time and you come out saying, now why didn't I look at it that way? But what I really admire is that ability to take a very strategic 30,000 feet view of something and then in the next few minutes, get into a lot of detail, which is really about knowing the business and understanding the consumer and customer and ensuring that your decision-making is focused on all the stakeholders. And the ability to toggle between short-term and long-term. You could be talking this month's or this quarter's performance and then move to something 5 years out, which is equally important for the growth of PepsiCo India. And that ability is something I truly admire, the ability to be so strategic and yet so hands-on operational when the need requires. Mm-hmm. And I think the second thing is around people. Indira really builds teams, empowers you, and then trusts you to deliver. And those are two of the many takeaways that I have from dealing with her.
Mm-hmm. With Indira Nooyi at the top, are you seeing more women represented throughout the ranks of the organization now?
We certainly are, but I don't think that's so much about our leader being a woman as just a sheer business need. At the end, let's remind ourselves, more than 50% of our customers and shoppers are actually women. A large portion of the workforce is women. If you don't have adequate representation of women in your workforce, you're never really going to get the representation of the thinking and the decision making that women very often take, which could be very different from men. And it's important to ensure that they're well represented across the functions to get the best talent available and to do the best for your consumers and customers.
Mm-hmm. And the company in the past was highly criticized for water wastage, as were several of your competitors. But today you replenish more water than you use in your manufacturing process. Can you talk a little bit about how that's impacted the bottom line?
I'm truly proud of what we've achieved in water conservation. Last year in 2011, we consumed 6 billion litres of water, but we put back 14 billion litres of water, more than 1.5 times of what we consumed. And we've done it through direct means, through conventional water recharging, but equally by addressing the area where the maximum water in this country is consumed. Agriculture consumes 80% of the water in this country, and what we have worked on certain projects on drip irrigation, on direct seeding of rice, to truly bring down the consumption of water in these practices. Now that has a great multiplier effect, because not only do we save in the areas within which we operate, but gradually as those practices spread, it becomes a much larger conservation effort. Mm-hmm. And as far as the bottom line goes, well, I think the most important thing is communities truly now welcome us to set up our manufacturing operations in their vicinities. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you the example of our factory at Paitan near Aurangabad, where we really worked on water conservation efforts. And when I was there last year, met a farmer who talked about two things and two ways this has impacted his life. First, he gets an additional crop. Second, his children used to go 5 kilometers every day to collect water to bring that back for domestic use. Today they don't have to, and they can go to school instead. Mm-hmm. Now, those are the kind of initiatives that truly impact the community, and as a result ensure that communities are very happy to have you operating in their vicinity.
Okay, and we'll head into another short break, but when we return, we'll get a glimpse of how Manu spends his time outside the boardroom.